Dennis Rader, the BTK killer's slow death. For over 30 years, Dennis Rader lived two lives, church president by day, sadistic murderer by night. BTK, he called himself, bind, torture, kill. He murdered 10 people in Wichita, Kansas between 1974 and 1991, leaving letters to taunt police. For decades, he was the faceless phantom of suburbia. But pride became his downfall. In 2005, Rader sent a floppy disk to police, believing it couldn't be traced. It was directly to his church computer. In 2005, he stood in court, describing his killings in emotionless detail. When he received 10 consecutive life sentences, he smiled faintly, as if recounting a hobby. Now, in solitary confinement, he's growing old, his body failing, his control fading. For a man who thrived on domination, living long enough to watch his power rot away, may be the cruelest death of all. If you're still watching, hit the like button and subscribe. More chilling stories await. Edmund Kemper, the co-ed killer's cold confession. He was 6 feet 9 inches, intelligent, polite, and utterly monstrous. Between 1964 and 1973, Edmund Kemper murdered 10 people, including his own mother. After years of killing young women hitchhikers, he turned himself in, calmly calling police from a phone booth. "I killed my mother," he said, "and 3 hitchhikers besides." At his trial, Kemper showed no remorse. He described decapitating victims, speaking to their heads as if they were still alive. Now, serving 8 life sentences in California medical facility, his voice echoes in interviews. Eerily calm, disturbingly intelligent. He once said, "When I killed my mother, I felt like I'd destroyed the monster, but the real monster was standing right there in front of the mirror." Albert Fish, the gray man's electrified end. January 16th, 1936. Sing Sing Prison, New York. Albert Fish, one of America's earliest known child killers, was strapped into the electric chair. At 65, he smiled. He had written letters describing his crimes in horrifying detail, even his enjoyment of pain. As the current surged through him, the room filled with a burning stench. The executioner later said the old man's body took longer than usual to die. Fish had once said, "What a thrill that will be, to die in the electric chair." That thrill ended with smoke rising from his flesh. Eileen Wuornos, the woman who killed for hate. October 9th, 2002. Florida State Prison, the only female serial killer executed that year. Eileen Wuornos murdered 7 men in what she claimed was self-defense. Her childhood was torture, her life soaked in abuse, and her crimes fueled by rage. When asked for final words, she looked straight at the witnesses and said, "I'll be back, like Independence Day, with Jesus." The chemicals flowed through her veins. Within moments, her breathing stopped. The woman who had once prowled highways with a pistol was finally still. Her death divided the world. Some saw a victim of circumstance, others a monster in disguise. Andrei Chikatilo, the butcher of Rostov, Soviet Russia, 1994. The man called the Red Ripper had confessed to killing 52 children and women across Ukraine and Russia. His crimes were unspeakable. His trial, chaotic. When the sentence came, he stood trembling. The judge's words echoed, "Death by shooting." In a small, soundproof room in Novocherkassk prison, Chikatilo was made to kneel. A single bullet was fired into the back of his head. There was no audience, no ceremony, no final words. For years he had evaded capture, mocking Soviet investigators. But his death, silent, sudden, became a grim warning across the collapsing Soviet Union. Even monsters can't outrun justice forever. Richard Ramirez, the devil's delayed death. The Night Stalker terrorized California in the mid-1980s. With pentagrams drawn on walls and satanic whispers left at every crime scene, Ramirez became the face of pure evil. But his death didn't come from the needle, it came from within. On June 7th, 2013, after 23 years on death row, he died from lymphoma at age 53. He once told reporters, "Big deal. Death always comes with the territory. But when it finally came, no demons arrived. Only silence and the cold flicker of fluorescent lights over a dying man." Pedro Alonso Lopez, the monster of the Andes. In the 1980s, Lopez confessed to killing more than 300 girls across Colombia, Peru, and Ecuador. He was released from an Ecuadorian prison in 1998, declared rehabilitated. But his freedom didn't last. Authorities in Colombia rearrested him after new disappearances. Yet no one truly knows what happened next. Some say he vanished after release in 2002. Others whisper he was killed by locals seeking vengeance. In a land where justice is rare, his end remains shrouded in mystery. A fitting punishment, perhaps, to disappear into the same shadows where he buried his victims. John Wayne Gacy, The Killer Clown's final show. March 13, 1980, Gacy was convicted of 33 murders. For years, he painted portraits of clowns in prison, signing them with a grin that haunted anyone who looked too long. But on May 10, 1994, inside Illinois' Stateville Correctional Center, his final performance began. As the lethal injection entered his veins, witnesses waited for remorse, for any sign of humanity. Instead, Gacy sneered. His last words were chilling. "Kiss my ass." Seconds later, the sedative stopped his heart. Outside, protesters cheered, while others wept for the boys he buried beneath his home. The man who hid behind grease paint and balloons had finally met silence, a silence as cold as the crawl space he filled with bodies. These deaths, slow, violent, or unseen, weren't just endings. They were reckonings. Each of these monsters met the darkness they gave others. Which of these do you think faced the most poetic justice? Tell us in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more true stories that reveal the shadowed side of history.